It is time for Flames Unfiltered, getting off the off season. We're back, season 6 of the show. I am Burud, joined alongside me, Kyle Lewis. What do you think, Kyle? Summer's over, off season is in the rearview mirror. Top Prospects is finishing today. Camp opens, I believe, Wednesday. And it's all systems go.
Yeah, I'm glad summer is over, although many people might disagree with me there. Yeah, actually, it's officially over on Saturday, first day of fall, 21st of September. And yeah, like you say, all systems go. So we're pretty well through the Penticton Youngsters tournament and onto the real deal in a couple of days.
Which is always exciting. I mean, you can, as a Flames fan, you can have numerous different ways to look at this season, right? But I look at it as a season of, are there going to be some tough nights? Probably. But you know what? Any night that does go good is going to be really, really fun to watch.
I think it's going to be fun most nights just because of the new faces and the opportunity that a lot of these guys have. But I'm kind of stuck in between. Are they going to be as bad as everybody thinks, or are we going to have some pleasant surprises that might make them a little bit more competitive than most suspect? Whatever the case, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and boy, the door's open for some surprises. That's for darn sure, and we'll get into this later in the show. But like, I've looked at this roster and I've looked at what we got, that the players and stuff, and it could be really a really interesting year. I mean, are we going to have a year where we have a couple Zari and Pospisil step ups from some rookies? I don't know. I guess time will tell on that, but they're definitely going to get the opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's opportunities at every position. So it's, like I said, it's going to be really, really interesting. And I don't, there's always surprises, and it starts with training camp, right? So even now, there's a couple guys that were held out of the last Penticton game, likely to have rest ahead of camp because of how well they've shown so far. And those are the guys that, we'll talk about a little bit later, and guys to be excited about.
And as we end summer and we go into fall, it's my favorite time of year, and we're both excited about it. We're both excited about the season and getting the show going on here on a weekly basis because, yeah, Flames fans, we're back again next week. But as we head out of summer, we have to deal with some sadness. And since we last talked, we lost two wonderful people and one of the all-time greatest Calgary Flames hockey players that there ever has been. And it's been a real traumatic and difficult time for not just the Gaudreau family, the friends, the teammates, everybody, but it also has been for a fan base.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to conjure up anything to say that hasn't already been said. When I first heard the news, I mean, it was obviously devastating. I consider myself a friend of the family and know some of them fairly well. And one particular family is a very, very close friend of mine. So it hit really close to home and really kind of reminds you that, it is just a game. The hockey side of it is such a small piece. And that both those guys had some success in hockey and brought them as much attention as it did. I mean, that's just even harder than I thought it was going to be. It's just one of those things that really puts life in perspective, right? Guys that lost their lives in the prime of their lives, as both, John had been a father a few times over and was about to be again, as we found out during the funeral. And Matt was going to be a father for the first time. And, those are things that really, bothered me the most, as I'm sure it does most people. I mean, it's just not the way life's supposed to be, right? And I've said this before. I've said it online. I've said it, to friends. Like, the Gaudreau family is as close a family as you'll ever meet. And to hear the way that they talk about each other, speak to each other, I mean, there's just such a love and respect there that every family really should be able to experience. With that, one of the things I wanted to say on the show just briefly too, it's that since this is such big news and been, huge in the media since it happened, obviously it's an outpouring of support and tributes. There's a lot of stuff being done, including a wonderful gesture by the Flames that I'll talk about briefly as well. But if you're seeing stuff online, about the good, especially about, John, where he's a professional hockey player or still playing professionally at such a high level, like, be mindful if you're going to be buying things, it's tribute T-shirts, that kind of stuff. As to where that stuff comes from, make sure it comes from a source where it's legitimate, benefiting a good cause, whatever it might be, because there's a lot of things there that happen anytime somebody who's famous passes away, right? So, but yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I wake up every day thinking it didn't really happen for the first few minutes I'm awake, and then the reality kind of sets in, right? It's devastating, and yeah, I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, that's just it. And we were just going to touch on it briefly in the show today because it's one of those things. It's like, I really don't know what to say anymore other than I'm sad over the situation, and it's crushing. I saw a tweet days, I believe it was right around the funeral, that said Calgary lost a legend and Columbus lost the future. And as far as organizations go, I mean, man, what a loss. And the one thing that I always hold in this is that I want to remember their memories, man. I want to remember the highlights. I want to remember the goals. I want to remember the good things, because I don't know how many times, Johnny Hockey, brought me out of my seat. And those are the things I want to remember.
Yeah, I mean, the argument is pretty easy to make, and that he is arguably the most exciting Flames player we may have ever had.
He's up there, not the top most, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like his 2015 goal to tie the game against Anaheim in Game 3, I don't suspect I'll ever be live in attendance at a game with a bigger moment than that. The second round of the playoffs, I mean, it was just so cool. And so I guess one of the things we should touch on is funny because so many people sent me a picture of this too, but so the tribute that the Flames fans really, put together. Obviously, I think everybody's seen it at this point. It's absolutely monstrous and really, really cool. So the Flames posted an update wherein they talked about what they were going to do with all the stuff. So I'll just run through it quickly. This is how thorough and thought out this is. So signs, messages, and chalk. The site has been precisely photographed, including all chalk drawings, posters, signs, personal letters, messages. The photographs we provided to the Gaudreau family as a digital memory book. The sticks that were left are being used to build benches for local charities, which will have in memory of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau on it. The Skittles, which are no longer considered edible. The Flames Foundation is going to make a commensurate financial contribution to the Calgary Food Bank to represent that. The purple sports drinks, everything's being dumped. The bottles being recycled as part of the Kidsport Calgary recycling program. The toys, they're being donated. The jerseys are going to be laundered and used to design blankets to be donated for charitable organizations. All the organics, so flowers, all that, will be deposited into the earth at the community park around the city as part of a composting effort. And then anything else, which I don't know what else you could possibly think of, that's going to be sorted. So they've literally thought of something to do with every single piece of this memorial, which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, the Flames and the Blue Jackets were first class in this whole thing, and it's a terrible situation, and it's good to see these tributes and everything that were so. I mean, the memorials in Calgary are out of control, and it's so great. It's so great to see.
It's mind blowing. I mean, and you see, Meredith Gaudreau and others posting about it. Katie Gaudreau posted about it today on X. Like, they're blown away. I mean, it's rare to see a community come together to such a thorough and meaningful extent. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Let's switch gears. And just because we're not talking about Johnny, it doesn't mean that he'll be in our prayers and the family will be in our prayers and will be for a long, long, long time. Let's shift gears. Jacob Pelletier re-signs with the Flames last week. Reported a 1-year deal, 2-way contract with the Flames, $800,000. His salary is $100,000 in the AHL, $165,000 salary guaranteed, and he'll be an RFA with arbitration rights upon expiration of this contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're a big Pelletier guy, and I wanted to get your take on this and what your thoughts and expectations for this season are, because this is really, really a make it or break it year for Jacob.
Well, he lost a year of his development, which is why he got a 1-year deal, which is why the terms are such that they are. I don't really know what to expect from this year at all. I have no idea. In fact, he's the biggest wild card on this roster. His style of play and his skill set is such that he projects to be an everyday NHLer that can move up and down your lineup. I would like to see him, maybe land on a line with Backlund and Coleman to really develop his defensive game, be sheltered a bit. I mean, he had an injury last year with his shoulder that is concerning, obviously. So he's the biggest question mark on the team. That's how I see him. Anyway, what's your take on the situation?
I always feel bad when a guy gets injured in when they're in the prove it phase of their career. It happened with Valimaki, and it happened with Jacob Pelletier. And the thing is, when he came back last year, I was really disappointed because I saw flashes of the Pelletier that I really expected prior to the injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw flashes of the Pelletier that I was scared of after the injury. And he looks like he could be an effective lower rostered NHL player, but I didn't see any offensive punch from him. So now it's his time. Now he's had time to heal. Maybe we'll see that now.
Yep.
Maybe we'll see that now.
So.
You did mention one thing though that I wanted to touch on there. You said that he would be filling a spot that you would like to see him with Backlund and Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that, but is that not maybe a spot that Matthew Coronado is filling also?
Well, anybody's going to benefit from playing in that spot, right? I think there's any number of candidates.
Yeah, I would agree. There's probably a handful of them. Yeah.
But it's going to take time to find the fit, I think.
Maybe I should have rephrased that. Is there room on the roster for both a Pelletier and a Coronado? That's probably the bigger question.
It's tough because signing guys like Anthony Mantha, creates a little bit of a logjam, right? Like a known commodity NHLer, a guy who can score goals. Coronado has a goal scorer's touch and had a really good year last year. He'd be my second biggest question mark going into the season, but is there room for both? I'm not convinced.
I'm not either. I mean, I just penciled out some things. I thought, Gaudreau, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, Zari, Mantha, Huberdeau, Backlund, Coleman. Is that where you slide in a Pelletier? Is that where you slide in Coronado? And then I'm not a huge fan. Or is that where Pospisil plays? Because I think that would be a better fit. I don't like Pospisil at center. I like him on the wing.
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe like a Rooney, Lomberg, Dewar, fourth line.
Yeah, that line makes sense.
I think putting Pospisil on the wing where we know he's effective. I don't know that his skating, and I'm a big Pospisil fan. I just don't know that his skating's there to be a center. And I surely don't know if I want him as a fourth line center.
Well, his north-south skating speaks for itself. He's fantastic. But in terms of his edge work and the ability to, stay on top of the play as centers have to do, I'm not sure either. Although there's a lot. Ryan Huska's essentially said he's going to try Pospisil at center in camp. But I'm like you. I see him I see him being more effective as a winger, I guess.
Yeah.
God, so many questions. So many questions.
Yeah, and we thought, wow. PTO signing for Tyson Barrie. The Flames bring in the veteran defenseman in on a PTO. He's 1 season removed from a 13-goal, 55-point campaign. I did not hate this PTO signing. Our defense, we have as much as I believe we have one of the stronger defensive prospect cores coming up. we're really, really, really thin on the blue line this year. And what is there to lose in this, right?
There's nothing to lose. I mean, defensively, he's not somebody that I'd be chasing after, but obviously the power play last year was really disappointing up until such time as Kuzmenko arrived. So he could certainly be a weapon that way. And at the end of the day, whether he signs or he doesn't sign or makes a team or doesn't, I think it's a good idea to have as much competition to camp as you have. Mm-hmm. And he'd be a good mentor for, the Bristovich, the Perriks, the Muse, like these younger offensive defensemen that we have in the pipeline. So I don't see him on the opening night roster. I don't.
You don't, huh?
No, the defense needs more defense, not more offense. I think Anderson will have a decent year.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I do agree with that.
Yeah. Miramanov, I think, should have a decent year offensively from the blue line, but all of our other... What's that?
You're sold on Miramanov, huh?
Not sold. I just think that the change of scenery did him well, and he was pretty effective with Uyghur last year. So I want to see what he's made of. Obviously, a soft spot like Pelletier since he played junior here, but we'll see how it pans out. But all these defensive, defensemen that we have in the pipeline, I'd sooner, we got like Kevin Ball now and Grishnikov and others. I don't see needing to add another offensive defenseman, but I don't think it's a bad move either.
It's funny because we added an offensive defenseman that we've often thought of as a defensive liability when he was in Edmonton and other stops, which is exactly what our most highly touted defensive prospects script is also, so yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. But these are guys that could be elite. Tyson Barrie is a very good offensive defenseman in the NHL and has been for a long time. We're talking about Perrick and Bristovich. Bristovich, who was held out of tonight's game because he's shown so well so far that they basically told him to get ready for main camp.
We talked to this guy, and I'm probably his number one fan right now. I love what I see so far, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. But I look at what we got in that Lindholm trade, and boy, I'm liking what I see with Bristovich. Oh,
and again, like layers upon layers of success from that trade, right? I mean, Kuzmenko is going to probably potentially fetch a first-round pick at the deadline if he has another strong season with Calgary. Yermo has been good in Penticton. Bristovich is obviously the crown jewel of the trade. I mean, I could see him getting a cup of coffee in the NHL. He's really shown well in camp. I guess we can call him a friend of the show now. So, noted friend of the show, Hunter Bristovich. He's been absolutely fantastic so far, and I'm really curious to see how he shows in main camp. And the other guy, since we're talking about the younger players, Sam Morton, like,
wow.
He's going to be maybe he's going to make the NHL. At the very least, he's going to be one of the last cuts if he keeps this up, man. He was held out today too at Penticton. Like, he's fantastic.
So the Penticton Young Stars is going on right now, and today is the final game. Flames had 25 players, 3 goalies, 8 D-men, 14 forwards. They lose the opening game to the Jets 4-3 in overtime, but Morton was amazing. Bristovich had a great one-timer that I guess it got tipped. I don't know how that got tipped, but who cares? And Lipinski had a shorthanded goal, but I mean, Morton and Bristovich just stood out all over the place. Honzek looked really, really bad against the Jets, I thought.
Yeah, he's better in the other games, I felt. But again, not everybody's trajectory is the same, right?
So, and that's exactly, and that brings me to our X factor this week. We jump to conclusions often on prospects way too quickly. And Ian Clark put on there, after one preseason game and against other rookies, Walter Ignatiu, is that how you say that one, Kyle?
Ignatiev.
Yeah, okay. Is the front runner to be the number 1 goalie for the Calgary Flames this season. Isn't that how this works, Honzek haters? And there's some truth to that. Like, as much as I worried after watching a little bit, I saw about 3/4 of the first game against Winnipeg, and Honzek did not. He stood out in the wrong way. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah, and it is. And again, we're not going to make mountains and molehills here, just despite that X factor.
But the X factor makes sense, though. He's just saying, like, well, if we're using this logic and we're going to bash Honzek after a couple tough games at top prospects, I mean, that let's reverse that, and this is our starting goalie. I mean, that's how crazy this is.
Yeah, exactly. So, similarly, again, we don't want to get too excited about guys who showed really well in Penticton, right? Main camp will be the determining factor there, but and you'll see more of this like when the actual preseason games start. Like, remember last year when Calgary walloped Vancouver 10-0? God, that was fun. My God, that was it was super fun and super meaningless. So
might have been our best game of the year last year.
Oh yeah, Huberdeau had a beauty in that game. It absolutely was. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. But I mean, it's really interesting to see. So Inakiev actually, he was excellent when I was tuning into the game earlier.
He was playing game 3, I believe, right?
Yeah,
against Vancouver.
Yeah, his reactions.
Calgary did beat Edmonton 3-1 Saturday in game 2.
Yeah. So another one I want to mention too is William Stromgren. Really good in Penticton. Clearly showed that he's above that, past that stage of his development. I think so. He's another one. Look for big things this season.
So
is the Rangers for Flames.
So is Morton and Stromgren the guys we're really got our eye on here heading into main camp?
They're the ones that complicate main camp.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it, Kyle.
Thank you. I've been prepping for the return of our podcast for weeks. Training, as it were. They're going to make it a lot more interesting. And I think, guys we had, like signing Lomberg and Mantha, already having a lot of full-time NHL players, like, this is going to be our team with maybe one spot. Well, there could be 2 or 3 spots that are up for grabs. Maybe Kevin Rooney's in the press box more than we think. Like, it's really, really interesting.
When you look at our prospect pool and heading into camp, how many spots do you see open? And how many guys and who are the potential guys that are going to fill those spots? That's a tough question to throw you on the spot.
Well, it is tough because it's the one everybody's talking about, but there's no easy answers. So, Walker Duehr had a rough year last year, so we'll see that. The fourth line seems to be damn near wide open to me.
I would say so, minus Lomberg.
Yep. Yeah, but the bottom 6 as a whole is kind of in flux. The lack of center depth also creates some questions, like in terms of where Zari and Pospisil may end up playing. Defensively, like you got Uyghur, Anderson, Mirmanov, Ball. Those guys are pretty well locked in. Pahal, likely a lock. Then you get Joel Hanley. Jake Bean is pretty. There's your 6 or 7 right there. So that's a little more locked down to me. But again, with Gaudreau Bristovich playing as well as they are, it's hard to say.
So where does that leave a guy like Solovyov or Bristovich? Are we opening a spot? Are they available? I can't see the direction of this team holding back, Hunter at all. If he makes this team, do you think he's a green light to go, or do they want to see him in I almost said Stockton with the Wranglers for a while?
It kind of reminds me of TJ Brody. Like, although Brody did have some time in the American League, if he makes the team, he makes the team. And maybe that makes a guy like Anderson more expendable, right?
I don't know how I feel about that whole Anderson discussion. I feel like he's a solution through this transition period. Like I know everybody, and this is probably where I differ from a lot of everybody in Calgary is like I am open to trading Kadri just because of his age, right? But like you've got to keep some guys like Coleman and Huberdeau and Uyghur and Anderson. I think those are the 4 guys that you got to move through this retool, rebuild, call it what you want, as the glue, right? You need the glue, right?
Yeah, you do. But again, if you know you're not going anywhere as a team this season and somebody offers you something really good for him or has an injury where it necessitates an acquisition, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Blues probably didn't think they were going to lose Torrey Krug for the whole season, but look what happened there, right?
Yeah. I guess if someone's going to give you stupid money, everything's for sale. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially. But if you have a logjam wherein the guys that are knocking at the door look, ready for prime time, how do you deny them that? And I'm not saying you can't put them with the Wranglers for a little while to figure things out, but you're going to have to figure things out.
Are we jumping the gun as a fan base saying that we have guys knocking on the door when all we have right now is dreams?
Well, if we believe it firmly, absolutely. But I think as we've seen so far, and as we'll likely see in main camp, some guys again are going to complicate things.
Yep.
But the extent to which they do so, it's hard to say. So everybody's development's different, whether it be as a hockey player or human being, and God knows what's going to happen. That's what makes it fun.
The thing is, the best thing for us is to have guys creating difficult decisions, right?
Oh, hell yeah. In every position, too. Even Devin Cooley is considered a late bloomer. Maybe he comes in and has a fantastic camp and pushes Vladar for the backup spot, or maybe Wolf isn't quite ready. So we see, maybe we have a three-headed monster of goaltenders this year.
We could.
Yeah.
We could.
There's so many questions around this team. Like there's every position. Like, I don't know. This is going to be I'm going to be paying as much, if not more, attention to this training camp than anyone the Flames ever had, because it is chock full of potential.
Yeah. We can't forget another signing for the Flames, too. They signed Jared Tenorti to a 1-year, 2-way contract, $800,000. That seems to be the magic number in Calgary lately.
Yep.
A big bruising, the exact opposite of what we're going to get from Zane Parekh and Hunter Bruskevich, right? I mean, this guy has some NHL experience. I believe this signing, and when I saw it, I chalked it up to, hey, this is AHL depth for the organization.
100%. I mean, he got pressed into duty a lot in Chicago because of a total lack of depth in that organization, and good for him. I think he made the most of it, but injury fill-in potentially, but really a mentor to the younger guys, and also to help stabilize, the Wranglers blue line as well, because they've had a bit of turnover with their vets. So Mark Pysyk moved on as a free agent. Colton Pullman at one point. They've always kind of had some depth guys who have maybe a couple games in the NHL, and he kind of fits that bill. And like you said, he's a big body.
He is, and he's not afraid to be tough guy either. And when you look at this team, I'm past the days of having that guy that can fight, or not the guy that can fight, the guy that's there to fight. I'm more on the page of we got to have a few guys that can fight. And
hard nosed, right?
Yep, Tenorti would bring that.
And to that point, actually, the Hockey News yearbook, there's a great article in there about the importance of big defensemen in the playoffs. All the emphasis is on skill and foot speed, as it should be, but having those guys that can wear you down in the corners, that can log big minutes in front of the net, pushing guys around, there's still a place for that. And you're right, Tenorti is going to be AHL depth, but that's a guy that 31 other teams would have happily signed for that same role, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Let's shift gears off of the ice and into the play-by-play booth. Sportsnet will have John Abbott as the play-by-play guy for the Flames, Kelly Rudy and Greg Millen as color commentators, and of course Ryan Leslie as the host. Your thoughts on John Abbott?
Well, I don't envy anybody that's got to come in and replace Rick Ball, first of all.
No, that's a tough job.
It is a tough job, and he was the voice of some of those iconic Johnny Gaudreau calls, for example, right?
Yeah.
The Kachuk between the legs and overtime against Nashville goal. So it's really hard to say much about it until I hear him. I've heard him call games, but hear John Abbott call Flames games, right? Everything about it, we need experience. But I think it could be a good fit.
You know what I liked though? When he was announced, the Flames had him do audio calls for a few of Flames highlights from last season.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he did a real good job. It was just 4 plays, I believe, and it was very initial. But you know what? I I liked what I heard. Let's put it that way. And I feel pretty good. You know, a lot of people are like, why do people make a big deal about the play-by-play guy? It's huge.
Well, oh, absolutely, it's huge. I mean, you had people clamoring for Peter Labarius to return. I think about leaving like the NHL video game series, Jim Houston doing it for years, and how weird it was to have somebody else like that. That person is narrating your hockey watching experience. It's hard to overstate how important that actually is. You know, Doc Emmerich in the States for years, Harry Neal and Bob Cole. Like, you know, we could go on for days about it.
It's huge. It is huge. I'm
going to watch more Blackhawks games because Rick Ball is going to be calling Connor Bedard. So why the hell wouldn't he go, right? It's a great opportunity for him. But it's a very, very important part of the game.
It is. I'm going to watch some Blackhawks games this year too, not just because for a couple reasons. I haven't watched a lot lately because they've been so awful, and I do think, well, it's the truth, right? I mean, you watch the team. It's always funny. Like, I always find myself every year, I'll have like 4 or 5 other teams other than Calgary that I tend to tune into a lot, and Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Vancouver seem to fill that list just simply because of Pacific Division for 2 of the 3, but and then Winnipeg's close to my home. I watched those 3, but like last year, I found myself watching more Detroit games than I normally would, which I went from 0 to quite a few. I find those teams that are always kind of entertaining. Arizona was one of them a couple years ago. They were always really fun to tune into because the games are always bonkers, you know.
Yeah,
I am interested to see what this year's team, for excitement, watching is going to be.
Well, and you know, back to the whole broadcasting thing. Like, I forget the guy's name, but the guy that's now doing commentary for WWE Raw on Monday nights is just so boring. You know, like so boring. And forgive me, you know, because I can't think of his name, but again, the narration of that experience is so important. And when you watch other teams, you can hear the guys that they get to listen to, and some of them drive you crazy, like the dumbass there in Boston, Jack Edwards.
He's gone. You know, he's gone.
I know. Thankfully, he's gone, because that guy would just sit there and put down the other team's individual players. Never mind just putting down the opposing team, right? So he was awful. But anyway,
super unprofessional.
Extremely so. Extremely so. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, and you mentioned the Red Wings. We should actually jump on that for a minute. So the Red Wings signed Lucas Raymond to an 8-year contract not too long ago. $8.025 million or something a season. So big money for him. Great player.
Wow.
And the bigger news, arguably, is the Penguins re-signing Sidney Crosby for just 2 more years. Crosby and I are the same age, so he'll be 38 when that contract expires. But again, the same $8.7 million. So to me, and I want your take on this, to me that says I think we can squeeze another year or 2 out of this roster and be a playoff team and a possible Stanley Cup contender. But if not, I get one more run of the cup when my contract's coming up. So what do you think?
Yeah, I thought that initially. Then I also thought, also what it does is it's one more run at the cup, and if that doesn't work, then I can retire too. Because I mean, he'll be 40. So, there's a couple ways to look at that, but it's definitely, the problem there lies is the same as in Washington. It's like, is there another kick at the can here, or is it too late now? And time will tell, and this season will tell us that. But I'm not surprised he re-signed in Pittsburgh, and he's one player like, each of us can make a list of guys that it just does not look right seeing him in a different jersey. And
those are so fun to see, like on X, like Ed Belfour in a Sharks jersey, or Martin Brodeur in a Blues jersey.
Could you imagine seeing Sidney Crosby in a different jersey?
I'm imagining it as you're saying it, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult. Yeah.
It's not a normal one.
I'd love to see something like him go to Montreal in a couple of years when some of their kids develop, that would be fun. I mean, he played junior in Rimouski, so it's not that far away, but just something like that would be a cool story, but that's a ways away.
Another contract signing from a week or so ago that is definitely going to have an effect on the Calgary Flames is Leon Draisaitl extends in Edmonton, 8 years, $14 million. I mean, you have to sign him. I mean, you just have to. But what is this cap going to look like for the Oilers?
I think it's absolutely stupid. They're not. I don't see the Oilers making the Cup final again, just because it's so difficult to do. But these players, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this is a Flames final, I'm sure it's going to sound that way. You're hurting your roster by commanding that much of the cap. And I'll compare it to what Crosby's doing in Pittsburgh. $8.7 million for a player of his caliber, even at his age, is pretty palpable. But a single player making $14 million, and you're telling me you want to win a cup?
I know.
There's only so many pieces of the pie, or as Brad Treliving once said, only so much soup, or whatever weird analogy he came up with. It just the math does not math.
He was the king of cap gymnastics. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh God, I forgot about that.
No,
but yeah. I just don't see that working out.
See, I agree with you, but the one problem I think that's going to really bite Edmonton's ass more than Draisaitl and McDavid is the contract for Nurse, right? When you mess 100%. Up and sign a guy like him, then you make these other bigger signings that you have to do even more difficult to manage, right?
Mm-hmm. Big time. Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah. Oof. So we're podcast guys. So I listen to a lot of hockey podcasts. And one that I've listened to, I probably have listened to 75% of them ever put out, is 32 Thoughts. Used to be 30 Thoughts, used to be 31 Thoughts. Now it's 32 Thoughts. The reason I listen to it, because I'm a huge Elliot Friedman fan, but as much as I'm an Elliot Friedman fan, I'm a Jeff Merrick guy. I watched Jeff Merrick's, I don't know what I'm going to do on lunch this winter. He was my lunchtime entertainment when I ate. I listened and watched his show on Sportsnet. We talked about why he's gone. We can all have our opinions and our thoughts on that. I'm going to miss him. He's been replaced on 32 Thoughts now with Kyle Bukauskas. I can't even say his name. I've listened to the first 2 episodes. I thought Kyle did okay. I thought he did good. Really, you know what? I'm going to give him credit. He did good. He's just not Jeff Merrick to me, right?
Well, Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman had a really good yin and yang.
They did.
Almost like a subdued, Ron McLean, Don Cherry type vibe. Like Jeff Merrick was just, slow pitch down the middle for Friedman. Like they played off each other so well.
Well, Merrick's kind of a quirky guy with out of the box ideas that
that's why he got shit.
that Friedman thought were, preposterous but they worked good together, right? And they were just so entertaining, and they made hockey talk great, right?
Absolutely.
And that podcast is going to change, and I still think it'll be a good podcast because Elliot Friedman is as good as you can get, but it's a change, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yep, absolutely.
Professional Women's Hockey League. Before we go, I got to get your opinion on this. Okay, last year we had 6 teams, and you know what? I would consider it a very successful first year.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
they just named the teams Boston, Minnesota, Montreal. They got colors. They look like Utah, right? Which that still pisses me off. Now, last week, they announced their team names and their logos. It's the Boston Fleet, Minnesota Frost, Montreal Victory, New York Sirens, Ottawa Charge, and the Toronto. What is that? The hell is that word?
Oh, just watching you pause like that was great.
Scepters? The hell is that word?
Scepters.
What is that? What's a scepter?
Part of your royal pageantry. Like you have a scepter, like a wand.
Oh my God. I don't even know what it is. That's how important it is in my life. I don't have wands. Do you have wands? I don't have wands.
I do not have wands. I have wrestling belts in my basement. I don't have wands.
I don't know. I look at these logos and you know what they reminded me of? It's funny. Somebody said the Ottawa one looks like the Cleveland Cavaliers logo slept with the Calgary Flames logo.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as you said that. That's a good one.
I look at these and they look like, you remember when like video games came out? Well, not when they came out, but like in like phase 2 of technology in video games, and you'd get the cartoonish logo that was just really boxy. That's what all these logos look like. They're just not great.
No, they're very simplistic and derivative and bunched together,
Yeah, not a fan.
But I'm not really either, but it's also difficult to imagine the budget for a startup league like this. to have a lot in the way of logoing and merchandising and stuff.
Yeah.
So and they had a really successful first year. It's good hockey. So
it is. It's great. They had, you know what, if you were going to give them a letter grade last year, they were an A+ for entertainment and everything went really, really, really well.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Like, you could have contests and get better logos than this.
Yeah, evidently they didn't have a contest. That's why we got stuck with these. But
me and you could have done that in our off season, right? We could have designed logos for them.
I didn't do much else this summer, so I suppose
you had a lot of free time.
Some of the worst summers I can remember for just a litany of reasons that I haven't got enough alcohol or time to get into. But anyway,
but it's over now, Kyle, and we're back talking hockey every Sunday.
Yeah, I know. I'll get there. Just be patient with me.
Flames fans, we'll be on we're going to record now next week. We're already screwing it up, and the week after we're screwing it up. But
no, we're not screwing it up. You're screwing it up.
I am. My daughter has some very important golf tournaments.
Oh yeah, blame your daughter. Yeah.
They're going to take precedence to the show, but we will have episodes the next 2 weeks, and by then after that, we're going to be predominantly Monday nights, barring Flames games also, but predominantly Monday nights, Tuesday releases. So the consistency will be there for all of you as you drive to work in the morning or whenever you listen to the show. So, what do we got ahead? Next week, we'll probably talk training camp notes. October 3rd, we'll do some predictions and expectations. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and it's going to be the next 2 weeks. Going to be a lot of fun, as we talked about for the majority of the show, like the training camp battles and the surprises and who winds up where. Like, it's I don't know that any other team has as interesting a training camp as the Flames do. You can certainly make the case that we're going to have one of the most interesting ones. So stay tuned.
Games start this Sunday. Is that not crazy? We play Seattle on Sunday night.
Yeah,
and I believe what is Wednesday's testing, and then Thursday, Friday practices. I suppose I got the schedule right in front of me. I can look it up here. But yeah, it's going to be all systems go, and everybody's going to get rolling. 8 preseason games for the Flames, a couple against Edmonton, a couple against Winnipeg, a couple against Vancouver, and a couple against Seattle. So that should be exciting. I'm just happy we're back. I'm happy we're talking Flames hockey, and it's been a tough summer for Calgary, and the Gaudreau thing just really was a difficult thing for everybody in the area. But now it's time to remember and cherish the memories we have of Johnny and his brother, and now it's time to move forward and see what kind of team we have on the ice this year.
Yep. And I mean, throughout the season, there's already lots of rumors and rumblings about what the tributes will look like in Calgary and Columbus and around the league. And it's, it's bittersweet in the sense that, we don't get to see that dazzling play on the ice from John in the NHL anymore. But I am looking forward to seeing these tributes and seeing how because everybody around the league's done such a great job with this so far. And it's, we'll see through the year how that continues to unfold.
Yeah. Definitely some difficult times. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Gaudreau family, friends, teammates, and everybody. Terrible situation, and you're definitely in our prayers.
Absolutely.
Until next week, Flames fans, that's it. That'll do it. Season 1 of Season 6, Show 1 of the episode. We're over 200. Yeah, we're over 200.
We'll work the bugs out in the coming weeks.
And we will. All right. You guys have a good week, and we're back next week.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.